If someone had told me a hallway promise would bind a hidden empire, I wouldn't have believed it. The elevator doors clanged shut, bottling the smell of bleach, dust, and a whisper of citrus. Mara was soaked, freezing, and furious. Her heels ticked over the tile as she jabbed the top floor button twice, like extra pressure might rewrite the day. But nothing could fix a morning that imploded before coffee. Her assistant called in sick. The board moved her meeting without a heads up. And then, because the universe loves a theme, her car died in the rain. Not that it mattered. She had one mission: reach the top floor, grab the hard drive from her office, and vanish before anyone clocked the CEO of Kincaid Corp looking like a drowned cat. The cab lurched, and stopped. Lights fluttered. Mara's stomach sank. No, 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 no. You've got to be kidding me, she muttered, slamming the emergency button. Nothing. A beat. Then the speaker overhead sputtered to life, a strained voice crackling through. Yeah, looks like a power blip. Just sit tight. We've got someone on it, she groaned, leaning back against the cold mirror. She had a dinner reservation in an hour. Not that she cared about the food. She had a proposal to deliver, and it wasn't going to write itself. She glanced at the time. 6:38 p.m. Perfect, she muttered. A clang echoed above. Then came the faint sound of footsteps. Someone was on top of the elevator. Hey, Mara shouted. Is someone there? Don't panic. A woman's voice replied, muffled but calm. I'm here to get you out. Who are you? Janitor, the voice said. You okay in there? Do I sound okay? You sound pissed, the woman replied dryly. A pause. Hey, if you're enjoying this story, go ahead and drop a like to help us grow even more and let me know in the comments. On a scale from 0 to 10, what score would you give this story so far? Your feedback makes all the difference. Then a soft laugh. It's kind of hot. Mara blinked. Excuse me. Nothing, the janitor said quickly. More sounds, a tool clinking, a hiss of wires. You've got 5 minutes of patience in you. Mara swallowed. The voice, it was deep, smooth with an accent she couldn't place. Confident, disarming. Fine. 5 minutes. A beat passed. What's your name? Sloane. You work here? Technically, night shift. I fix things. Clean what rich people break. Mara rolled her eyes. Charming. And you? Sloane asked, what do you do? Mara hesitated. She didn't want to explain herself. Not now. Office drone. She lied. Late hours figures. You sound tired. That hit harder than expected. Mara looked at her reflection in the elevator mirror. Mascara smeared, hair wet, jaw clenched. I'm fine. Sure. A soft hum, then a crack. A panel on the elevator ceiling slid open and a hand reached down. Strong, gloved, steady. I've got you. Mara hesitated, took the hand. Sloane's grip was warm. Sure. She pulled Mara up like it was nothing, lifting her through the hatch into the narrow, dark space above. For a moment, their faces were inches apart. Sloane's eyes were dark, serious, searching. Her face was smudged with grease, and her dark hair was tucked beneath a cap. She wasn't what Mara expected. Too young, too sharp, too magnetic. You're heavier than you look, Sloane teased. Mara narrowed her eyes. You're redder than I expected, flirting's not a crime. Sloane grinned, then nodded toward the hatch leading to the service stairwell. Come on, I'll get you out of here. They climbed through a maze of dim corridors and metal ladders until they finally emerged in a service hall on the 34th floor. Sloane pushed open a heavy door and suddenly Mara was in the corridor that led to her own office. Here, Sloane handed her a towel. Where had she even gotten it? Dry off. Thanks, Mara muttered, taking it. Sloane tilted her head. You don't seem like an office drone. You don't seem like just a janitor. Mara shot back. Touché. They stood there, silence stretching between them like a taut wire. Mara didn't know why she said what she said next. Maybe it was the way Sloane looked at her, like she wasn't just another suit. Maybe it was the fact that Sloane had gotten her out, no questions asked. Or maybe Mara was just tired of pretending. If we meet again, Mara said, I'll marry you. Sloane blinked, then smiled, bold. I mean it. Sloane took a slow step backward, eyes never leaving hers. Then I'll see you around. Office drone. Mara watched her disappear into the stairwell, towel in hand, her heart thudding with something dangerously close to longing. What she didn't know, what she could know was that Sloane wasn't a janitor. Sloan was the majority shareholder of Kincaid Corporation, the real power behind the company, and she just met the CEO without either of them knowing the truth. The week passed in a blur of deadlines, hollow meetings, and sleepless nights. Mara buried herself in work as always. That night in the elevator became a memory she couldn't categorize, a glitch in the matrix. A fever dream soaked in rain and flotation. Sloan. The name echoed in the back of her mind like a song she couldn't shake. She had Googled her once. Nothing. No employee file, no maintenance crew listing, no trace of her in the company records. Mara wasn't used to not knowing things. It annoyed her. She was even more annoyed by how often her mind wandered back to that smirk, that voice, that hand pulling her up into the dark. A fantasy, nothing more. Until Wednesday. She was in the lobby headed toward the cafe in a rare moment of indulgence when a woman brushed past her. Black baseball cap, same walk, same posture. Mara froze, but the woman didn't look back. She disappeared through the security doors like a ghost. Mara's chest tightened. It wasn't Sloan. Couldn't be. Sloan had said she worked nights. Still, she caught herself watching the stairwell every evening, foolishly hopeful. But Sloan didn't come back. Not until Friday. Mara was in the boardroom when she heard her name. "There's someone asking for you downstairs," her assistant whispered. "She says she's a contractor." Mara didn't blink. "Send her away. She said your exact words were, and I quote, 'If we meet again, I will marry you.'" The pen dropped from Mara's hand. Her heart stuttered. "She's here wants 5 minutes. Says she'll fix your coffee machine for free." The board members watched her puzzled. Mara stood. Meeting adjourned. She found Sloan in the executive break room, leaning casually against the marble counter like she belonged there. No uniform, no cap, black button-down, sleeves rolled, tattoo barely visible on one forearm. That same look in her eyes, bold, amused, unreadable. "Told you I'd see you around," Sloan said, holding up a screwdriver. "Your espresso machine's been making a weird sound. Figured I'd help." Mara crossed her arms, masking the pulse in her throat. "You don't work here." "Did I ever say I did?" Sloan countered. "You said you were a janitor." "I said I was fixing things, which I did." Mara exhaled slowly. "What do you want?" Sloan tilted her head. "Maybe I wanted to see if you meant it." "What?" "The marriage offer." Mara blinked. That was sarcasm. Sloan shrugged. "Still, a girl can dream." Their eyes locked. For a moment, Mara forgot the room, forgot her title, forgot the weight of her carefully constructed world. Sloan wasn't afraid of her. Sloan was dangerous in all the right ways. "You have 5 minutes," Mara said quietly. Sloan smiled. "That's all I need." They walked down the service hall past the elevator where it all began. Sloan's hand brushed hers on purpose. Mara didn't pull away. "You never told me what you actually do," Mara said. Sloan looked up at the ceiling as if thinking. "I buy things, fix companies, break a few, invest, travel. Sometimes I pretend to be a janitor to meet interesting women." "You're lying." "Am I?" Sloan grinned. "You Googled me, didn't you?" Mara looked away. Sloan stepped in front of her. "I'm not asking for a date. I'm asking for coffee. No suits, no boardrooms, just you." Mara stared at her. She wanted to say no. She should say no, but instead, she whispered. "Tonight." Sloan raised an eyebrow. "Pick you up at 7. I'll text you the place." "I'll guess." "You won't." Sloan leaned in, voice low. "Try me." She was gone before Mara could reply. Just disappeared into the building like a mirage. Mara stood there, heart racing. What the hell was she doing? That night, Mara sat alone in a quiet wine bar downtown. She didn't send an address, didn't text, just waited, half believing Sloan wouldn't show. But at 7:02 p.m., Sloan slid into the seat across from her, eyes gleaming. "Told you I'd find you." Mara didn't smile. "Not yet." "How did you know I'd be here?" "Because this place smells like you." That's the worst line I've ever heard. Sloan leaned in, elbows on the table. "Is it working?" Mara's lips parted. The ghost of a smile tugging at the corner. Unfortunately, they talked for hours about nothing, about everything. Sloan never asked what Mara did, never asked about the company, never treated her like anything other than a woman drinking Merlot with chipped nails and a cynical smile. It felt terrifying. It felt real. By the end of the night, Sloan walked her to her car. Neither moved. The silence swelled between them, full of charged possibility. so Sloane murmured. Still planning to marry me if we meet again. Mara's breath caught. Maybe. Sloane leaned in, brushing a strand of wet hair from Mara's face. Then let's make sure we keep meeting. Mara didn't sleep that night. She lay in bed staring at the ceiling. Every nerve still thrumming with the echo of Sloane's voice, her laugh, the warmth of her hand brushing Mara's as they left the bar. It wasn't a date. She didn't do dates. Not with strangers. Not with women who showed up uninvited and slipped past security like shadows. But Sloane wasn't a stranger anymore. She was something else. Something Mara didn't have a name for yet. And that was the problem. The next morning, Mara snapped at 2 board members, ignored 3 calls from the COO, and stared too long at the elevator every time it opened. She felt unmed, untethered, like someone had cracked open the world and let a little light in where it didn't belong. And yet, when Sloane texted her that afternoon, "Want to break the rules tonight?" Mara replied before she could stop herself. "Where and when?" Sloane's reply came instantly. "Anywhere." "Midnight." Mara hesitated. Midnight meant risk. Her time, her control, her rules. And Sloane wanted to pull her out of all of it. Good. Let her try. The rooftop of Kincaid Tower wasn't on any employee's access list. It was technically off limits, under renovation, and completely deserted after dark. But when Mara stepped through the maintenance door at 11:59 p.m., Sloane was already there, leaning against the railing. City lights casting gold into her eyes, wind tossing her hair like something from a film Mara would have called pretentious if she weren't living it. "You're late," Sloane said without looking. "I'm exactly on time." Typical CEO. Typical liar. Mara shot back. Sloane turned to face her slow and deliberate. "You didn't have to come." Mara stepped closer, pulse hammering. "You make it really hard not to." "Do I?" Sloane's voice was quiet now. She tilted her head, studying Mara like she was art. Valuable, rare, maybe just a little dangerous to touch. "Why me?" Sloane asked. "You could have anyone." "No, I couldn't," Mara replied. "People don't see me. They see the position, the power, the myth. You didn't flinch when I snapped at you. You didn't ask what I do. You didn't care." "I care," Sloane said. "I just don't want to give you the power to run." Mara blinked. Sloane stepped forward, their bodies inches apart. "You're terrified of being wanted for who you are, not what you own." "No," Mara whispered. "I'm terrified that no one knows who I am at all." Sloane's hand brushed hers, fingertips grazing like a question. Mara didn't pull away. "Couldn't." "What if I want to know?" Sloane asked. "What if I already do?" Mara looked away, but Sloane gently took her chin, turning her face back. Her thumb traced along Mara's jaw, and before she could stop herself, Mara leaned into the touch. The walls she'd built were giving way, and she was letting them fall. "You shouldn't get close to me," Mara warned. "Try me." Mara reached. Sloane met her halfway. The kiss was unhurried and scorching, rain and fire on Mara's tongue, the rush of blood in her ears louder than the wind skimming the city. Sloane kissed her like she already knew the secrets and didn't care, like she saw the woman beneath the title and wanted her more. When they broke apart, Mara was breathless, eyes wide. "That's dangerous," she murmured. Sloane's mouth curved. "So are you." They perched on the roof's edge, shoulders brushing, legs drifting into the dark. Mara told her things she'd never spoken aloud, her mother's death, the boardroom battles, how success had carved out loneliness instead of pride. Sloane listened like no one ever had, no interruptions, no fixes, no fear. "No one looks at me like that," Mara said quietly. "Like what?" Sloane asked. "Like I'm not broken." Sloane paused, then said, soft as dusk, "You're not broken. You're just exhausted from pretending you aren't." Mara let out a long breath, heart raw and bare, and realized she didn't want to let Sloane go. Not now. Not ever. By morning, Mara sat in her corner office, the skyline burning behind glass and 1,000 unread emails glaring red. None of it mattered. Not the investors, not the projections, not the new intern calling her ma'am like she might shatter. The only thing that kept ringing in her head was Sloane's voice in the dark, "You're not broken. You're just tired of pretending you're not." Mara had never let anyone touch her like that. Not just the kiss, but the way Sloane reached into her without tearing her apart. It was terrifying, addictive. So, when her phone buzzed at 10:47 a.m. with a message from a number she hadn't saved, but already knew by heart, her breath caught. "Mara, I want to see you. No rooftop this time. Somewhere real tonight. Mara stared at the message. Somewhere real. She didn't do real. She did safe controlled, but she typed back anyway. Mara, send the address. I'll come at exactly 8 p.m. She stood in front of a tiny restaurant tucked between two laundromats on a side street she hadn't walked since college. No valet, no wine list, no white tablecloths. Sloane was already inside sitting in a booth, 2 beers and a basket of fries between them. She looked up and smiled like Mara had just saved her life. You came? Don't act surprised. I'm not. I'm impressed. Mara slid into the booth, still in her blazer, her heels feeling embarrassingly out of place on the sticky floor. Sloane handed her a beer. You ever been on a date that didn't require a reservation? Is that what this is? A date? Sloane tilted her head. What would you call it? Mara hesitated. A mistake. Then I hope you keep making it. They ate, talked, laughed. Sloane made her feel like herself. No mask, no performance, just Mara, the woman under the armor. She even laughed. Not the polite kind she gave to clients. A real one, the kind that felt like freedom. Sloane leaned back, sipping her beer. Tell me something true. Why? Because you're always performing. I want the version you keep locked behind your eyes. Mara stared at her. She didn't do this. She didn't open doors people could walk through, but Sloane was already inside anyway. Fine, she said. When I was 8, I wanted to be a pianist, not a CEO, not a leader, just someone who made beautiful things and didn't have to talk to anyone. Sloane blinked. That's beautiful. Why didn't you? My father said music was a hobby, not a future. And you listened to him? Mara smirked bitterly. When you're a kid, you listen to the voice that pays the bills. And now I'm the voice that pays the bills. And you're miserable. I didn't say that. You didn't have to. Mara looked down, fingers curled around the bottle label. Your turn. Something true. Sloane flinched. I hate being touched when I'm angry. I vanish for days when I'm scared. And I always know when someone's lying to me. Mara glanced up sharply. Am I lying to you? Sloane's gaze was unreadable. No, but you're lying to yourself. They sat in silence, the air between them thick with all the things neither of them had the words to say yet. Then Sloane reached out, her fingers brushing Mara's hand. Come with me where? Somewhere that doesn't belong to either of us. They ended up at a rundown jazz bar tucked inside a forgotten hotel lobby. The music was low, sultry. The room smelled like leather and time. Sloane pulled Mara into a booth at the back where the lights were low and the sound wrapped around them like velvet. This place is old, Mara whispered. Like haunted. That's why I like it. Ghosts don't ask questions. You always talk in riddles. Only when I'm nervous. Mara smiled. You're nervous. Terrified of me. Of how badly I want to know you. They didn't kiss. Not that night. But the intimacy was worse somehow. Sloane's hand on Mara's thigh, her eyes studying her like scripture. It wasn't physical. It was emotional stripping. And able to happen. She let herself be unraveled by bit, word by word, breath by breath. She told Sloane about the panic attacks she hid behind closed doors, about the therapy she quit after 2 sessions because being vulnerable felt like weakness. Sloane listened, not with pity, but with presence, like she could hold Mara's broken pieces without trying to glue them back. Mara didn't remember falling asleep. But when she woke up hours later in Sloane's arms, shoes kicked off, jacket draped over her shoulders, and Sloane's fingers stroking her hair, she realized something that made her blood go cold. She didn't want Sloane to be temporary. And that was terrifying because Mara had never been someone's forever. And Sloane felt like the kind of person you don't get to keep. You just get lucky enough to meet. Mara hadn't been touched in weeks. Not like that. Not without expectation. Not with reverence, and it stayed with her. The feeling of Sloane's fingers drifting lazily through her hair, as if Mara's thoughts were something sacred. It was obscene how much she craved it again. But what scared her more was how natural it felt, how easily Sloane had slipped into the spaces Mara had spent years barricading. Monday arrived like a slap. The building buzzed with tension. Someone leaked a rumor about a hostile acquisition, and Mara had to pretend not to know where it started, because she did. She'd started it. A strategic misdirection to distract the board while she pulled strings behind the scenes. It was the kind of manipulation she'd built her empire on. But now, in the middle of it, all she could think about was Sloane's voice whispering. Tell me something true. And Mara couldn't stop asking herself the same. What was true anymore? That she didn't want to go home alone. That she hadn't smiled for real in years until Sloane. That the woman who kissed her on the rooftop could undo her with a single look. At 7:13 p.m., Sloane texted, "Mara, I'm outside." Mara didn't question it. Didn't even reply. She just grabbed her coat and walked out, heart banging against her ribs. Sloane was waiting on the sidewalk, leaned against a black motorcycle, like some kind of cinematic threat to Mara's carefully constructed world. "You ride?" Sloane asked, holding out a helmet. "No," Mara said. "But I like watching you pretend I'm the kind of woman who would." "You are?" Sloane said simply. Mara took the helmet. "Where are we going?" "Somewhere no one calls you, ma'am." They drove through the city fast, reckless, Sloane's body solid between her and the wind. Mara closed her eyes, leaned in, and let go. She didn't care where they were going. She just wanted to be wherever Sloane was. They ended up in a converted warehouse turned art gallery, minimalist, dimly lit, filled with abstract canvases that looked like emotion had exploded onto the walls. Sloane walked beside her, fingers brushing Mara's occasionally. Not pushing, just close enough to burn. "I come here when I need to feel something," Sloane said. "Does it work?" "Sometimes." Mara paused in front of a painting all in red. It was rage and longing and surrender, smeared in wide, violent strokes. "I feel like this," she whispered. Sloane stepped behind her, voice low in her ear. "All the time?" Mara nodded and no one sees it. Sloane didn't touch her. Just stood there, her presence steady and quiet. "I do." Later, they ended up back at Sloane's place for the first time, a loft that was somehow chaotic and warm with old vinyl records scattered like memories and half-filled notebooks on every surface. "You live like a poet," Mara said. "I live like someone who's not afraid of mess," Sloane corrected. "You don't strike me as messy only on the inside." They sat on the couch, music low, light spilling over their faces in gold. Mara studied Sloane's profile. The scar on her jaw, the shadow in her eyes. "You're hiding something," she said. Sloane deny it. "So are you." "Mine could destroy everything." Sloane met her gaze. "Then maybe it's time to burn it down." The silence between them shifted. Not empty, charged. Mara leaned in and Sloane met her halfway again. The kiss this time was different. Hungrier, heavier, like they'd been holding it back too long. Sloane pulled her into her lap, hands firm on Mara's hips, and Mara let herself be consumed. She didn't want slow. She wanted to feel something real enough to shake her apart. Sloane gave her exactly that. And then, as they lay tangled in breath and skin and heat, Mara whispered something she hadn't meant to say. "I want this. I want you." Sloane smiled. Her voice was careful when she answered. "You have no idea who I am, do you?" Mara froze. "What?" Sloane sat up, suddenly distant. "Never mind." "No. Say it." "It's nothing." Mara felt the shift like a storm gathering. She reached for Sloane's hand. "Why are you really here?" Sloane's jaw clenched. "Because I didn't expect to fall for the woman trying to take over my company." Mara's blood went cold. "What did you say?" But Sloane was already on her feet, grabbing her jacket, avoiding her eyes. "Forget I said anything." "Sloane, I shouldn't have let it go this far." Mara stood, heart hammering. "Who are you?" Sloane turned at the door, eyes suddenly tired. "Someone who is about to become a problem for you." And then she was gone. Mara stood in Sloane's apartment alone, heart splitting, mind racing, and for the first time in years, she was afraid, not of losing control, but of losing someone who made her want it. Mara didn't leave Sloane's apartment for almost an hour. She sat motionless on the edge of the couch, her blouse still half-buttoned, the taste of Sloane still on her lips, and her mind spinning like a machine that had suddenly been turned inside out. "The woman trying to take over my company." Sloane's words looped over and over in her head, sharper than any boardroom betrayal. Mara was used to liars, manipulators, opportunists, but Sloane had been different. Sloane had made her feel like a woman again, not a weapon, not a title, not a target. And now Mara wasn't sure which part had been real and which part had been a game. The next morning, she locked herself in her office and demanded a full audit of shareholder activity from the past 6 months. She didn't explain. She didn't breathe. She just read page after page, file after file until a name appeared that made her heart crack in half. Mercer, silent partner, majority investor, acquired controlling interest in Kincaid Corp through a blind trust 6 months ago, and she knew it then, not just suspected, knew. Sloan Mercer. Mara laughed. A dry, sharp sound that felt like breaking glass. She'd kissed the woman who could destroy her career. She'd bare her soul to the one person in the world who had the legal power to vote her out of the company she built from blood and bone. And she had no one to blame but herself. That night, Mara didn't answer Sloane's texts. There were 2 of them. The first said, "I'm sorry." The second said, "Please let me explain." But Mara didn't want explanations. She wanted to forget how Sloane had touched her like she was precious. How Sloane had said, "I see you," and meant it. How she had made Mara believe that maybe, just maybe, she didn't have to be alone anymore. And now it was all a lie. Or was it? That question haunted her more than the betrayal itself. Had it been a setup from the start, or had Sloane really not known who she was that night in the elevator? Mara didn't know which answer would hurt more. On Thursday, Sloane came to the building. She bypassed security like she owned the place because technically she did. She didn't wear the cap this time. No pretense, no janitor's uniform, just tailored black slacks, a crisp shirt with the sleeves rolled to her elbows, and a face unreadable as stone. Mara watched her through the glass wall of her office, stomach twisting. Sloane didn't knock. She just waited. Mara didn't move, didn't flinch. But the moment their eyes met, something shifted. Sloane's face softened. So did Mara's resolve. She opened the door. 5 minutes, Mara said. That's all you get. Sloane stepped inside. She didn't sit. Didn't look around. Her eyes never left Mara's. I didn't know who you were when I pulled you out of that elevator. Mara folded her arms. Convenient. I didn't. I was there for something else. A walkthrough. I saw the alert and came to help. And then you decided to seduce the CEO. I didn't know you were the CEO until the night you kissed me. Mara blinked. What? I looked you up after. I panicked. I wanted to disappear, but I didn't want to lose you. Mara hated how much that hurt. So what, Sloane? You kept playing me? I wasn't playing. I was falling. The silence was brutal. Sloane took a breath. I didn't invest in Kincaid to take you down. I believed in what you built. You were always the legend behind the curtain. I wanted to help you take it further. By lying to me, by not walking away when I realized I cared too much. Mara's hands trembled. You don't get to do this. You don't get to make me feel everything. Tear it all down and then act like the victim. I'm not the victim. I'm in love with you. The words hung in the air like lightning waiting to strike. Mara didn't move. Couldn't breathe. Sloane stepped closer. Tell me it meant nothing to you. Look me in the eye and say you felt nothing and I'll leave. Mara opened her mouth. Closed it. She hated her own silence more than anything because the truth was she couldn't say it. She had felt everything and that terrified her. Sloane's voice cracked. I never lied about how I feel. I might have made mistakes, but I never faked this. Then she was gone again, and this time Mara let her go. Not because she didn't care, but because caring had never felt so much like drowning. That night, Mara stood alone on the rooftop, the same one where Sloane had kissed her under the stars. The wind was colder now, the city noisier, and the silence inside her, deafening. Mara's days became noise and static. Her inbox overflowed, her calendar suffocated her, and the board was on edge about new leadership shifts. All symptoms of a company on the brink of becoming unrecognizable. She answered every question, solved every problem, delivered every strategy. And still none of it mattered. Not since Sloane. Sloane had touched a part of her Mara had kept hidden so long she forgot it could feel. And now that part was awake and starving. But Mara had built her world on precision. Control walls. Sloane had slipped past all of that like sunlight through cracks. And now she was gone again. It had been 11 days. Not that Mara was counting. Except she was. She hadn't slept. She hadn't eaten properly. And every time she walked past the rooftop stairwell, her chest acted like a bruise that wouldn't heal. On the 12th day, a delivery arrived at Mara's office. No sender, just a small leather-bound notebook. She opened it slowly. Inside were pages filled with Sloane's handwriting. Messy, emotional, unfiltered. The first line hit her like a gut punch. If I tell you everything, will you still walk away? Each page after that was a storm. Notes Sloane had written but never sent. Fragments of thoughts from the day they met. Rage, guilt, hope, stories from Sloane's childhood, doubts, dreams, raw honesty. Mara read every word in silence and then read them again and then again. By the time she reached the last page, her hands were shaking. The final line was scrolled like Sloane had written it in a rush. You said if we ever met again, you'd marry me. I think I still want that. Even if it ruins everything. That night, Mara didn't go home. She drove. No destination, just movement. Her heart pulled her somewhere she didn't want to admit out loud. Sloane had once told her about a cabin 2 hours outside the city, secluded, where she went to disappear. Mara had remembered even when she pretended not to. She arrived after midnight. No lights, just trees and silence. She knocked once, no answer. She knocked again. The door opened. Sloane stood there barefoot in an old hoodie and jeans, eyes bloodshot like she hadn't slept either. She didn't look surprised to see Mara. Just tired, just exposed, just human. I wasn't sure you'd come, Sloane said softly. I wasn't sure I would, Mara replied. They stood there suspended between apology and ache. Sloane stepped aside. Come in. The cabin was dim, warm, cluttered with books and blankets and quiet things. Mara didn't sit, didn't speak, just stood by the fire, arms folded like she was holding herself together. You lied to me, she said finally. Sloane nodded. I did. You infiltrated my life, my company, my walls. I know, and I hate you for it. Sloane looked at her, jaw tight. Okay. Mara's voice cracked. But I hate myself more for needing you anyway. Silence. Long, heavy. Sloane stepped closer cautiously like Mara might vanish. Then let me fix it. You can't. Then let me try. Mara's mask broke. You don't get to love me in silence, Sloane. You don't get to say all the right things in notebooks and then disappear every time it gets hard. I didn't know how to stay then learn. Sloane's breath hitched. I was terrified. So was I. But I didn't run. I never ran from you. I ran from what you mean to me. Mara's voice dropped to a whisper. What do I mean? Sloane stepped closer. Only inches away now. Everything. Mara blinked and for the first time in weeks, she let herself break. Let the anger crack into pain. Let the pain fall into longing. Sloane cooped her face like it was something fragile. And then they kissed. Not hungry, not desperate, but like they were finally letting themselves breathe again. They sank into the couch, arms tangled, hearts thudding. Every touch said, I missed you. I'm sorry. I still want this. When they finally pulled away, Mara rested her forehead against Sloane's. This doesn't fix everything. I know. There's still so much you're not telling me. Then asked. Mara hesitated. Why Kincaid? Why me? Sloane exhaled. Because it wasn't about the company. It never was. I didn't want your empire. I wanted you, but I didn't know how to want both. Mara searched her eyes. And now Sloane held her gaze. Now I want to try. No secrets, no power plays, just us. Mara didn't respond right away, but her silence wasn't distance this time. It was surrender because she wanted that too, even if it meant risking everything. They stayed in the cabin for 2 days. No phones, no press releases, no board meetings, just warmth, food cooked badly over a gas stove, and the occasional silence that was no longer terrifying, just sacred. Sloane slept like she hadn't slept in months, arms always wrapped around Mara like her body remembered what her mind still feared to claim. Mara let herself feel something like peace, but only in fragments. She had never been good at stillness, and now that the world had paused around her, all her doubts had room to breathe. She watched Sloane from the porch one morning, barefoot and half awake, coffee mug in hand, squinting into the woods like she didn't own most of the skyline back in the city. It was beautiful. It was fragile. It wouldn't last. Mara knew the world they'd escaped would come crashing back in. It was just a matter of when. They left the cabin late on Sunday. No words, no promises, just hands held tight during the drive, as if that alone could stop reality from creeping back in. On Monday, Mara walked into her office like she hadn't been gone, like she hadn't been in the arms of the woman who technically held the power to destroy her. Her assistant didn't mention her absence, but there were whispers in the hall. The board had met in her absence. There had been votes, questions, movement. Sloane had promised transparency, but the board didn't wait for transparency. They smelled blood and they were circling. Mara spent the next 3 days putting out fires, negotiating blind. She had no idea where Sloane stood now, publicly, politically, and every time she looked at her phone, the silence between them stretched wider. That Wednesday, Sloane texted, "We need to talk. Somewhere neutral, somewhere quiet." They met at a private lounge in the lower part of the city. Dark walls, expensive whiskey, the kind of place where secrets were currency and no one asked for receipts. Mara arrived first. Sloane walked in 10 minutes later, her expression unreadable. She didn't kiss her, didn't reach for her hand. She just sat across from her and folded her hands like she was back in a war room. "The board wants to force a vote," Sloane said. Mara's spine went rigid. "On what?" "Your position." Silence. "Then are you pushing it?" Sloane looked her dead in the eyes. "No, but they think I am. And they'll move with or without me. You owe majority. Which means I can stop them or let them take you apart." Mara breathed through her nose. "And which one are you going to do?" Sloane didn't answer. Not immediately. Her eyes softened, but her voice stayed razor sharp. "That depends on what you want from me, Mara. Because I can protect you from them. But I can't protect you from me." Mara clenched her fists beneath the table. "You think I need protection? I think you need to decide if you're in love with me or just in love with the way I made you feel when the world disappeared." That hit too hard. Mara looked away. Sloane continued quieter now. "I'm not asking for power. I'm asking for clarity, because if I fight for you in that room and you leave me anyway, I lose everything." Mara's throat closed. "I don't want to lose you." "Then say that I don't know how." Sloane stood. "Then learn fast or they'll take it from both of us." She left without waiting for a response. And Mara once again was left with silence and too many choices. That night, Mara sat in her office long after everyone had gone home. She thought about her father, the empire he'd tried to build on her back. She thought about every man who told her she was too cold, too sharp, too ambitious to be loved. She thought about Sloane, messy, maddening Sloane, who had held her like she was worth saving. And then she made a decision. She called a private meeting. No press, no board members, just Sloane. The next morning, Sloane entered the room in black, her eyes weary, her guard already half up. Mara didn't wait. "You're right," she said, "about everything. I don't know how to love someone like you." Sloane's jaw clenched. "Then don't make promises you can't." "But I want to." Sloane blinked. Mara stepped closer. "I want to fight for this for you. I just don't know how to do it without breaking everything I've spent my life building." "Then break it." Mara laughed softly. "Of course you'd say that, because it isn't love if it only survives in secret." Sloane took her hand, and for once Mara didn't pull away. "I'll back you in the vote," Sloane said. "I'll speak for you. You do the same for me." "No," Sloane added, thumb brushing the inside of Mara's wrist. "I'm doing it because I believe in you, the CEO, the woman. All of it." Mara tipped forward until her forehead rested against Sloane's. "Then maybe we torch the rule book together." Sloane's smile was small, dangerous. "Now that's a merger I can endorse." Mara kissed her, quick, urgent, sure, and something shifted inside her. She wasn't afraid of losing control anymore. She was afraid of losing Sloane. The boardroom was all glass, steel, and silence, the kind that usually precedes a corporate execution. Mara sat at the head of the long table, spine straight, face serene, composure painted on like war paint. The tailored black suit wore like armor. Her gaze never wavered, though beneath the table her hands trembled. Sloane hadn't arrived yet. She wasn't late, but Mara's chest wouldn't unclench until she appeared. Every board member was there. 12. Old blood, cold ambition, and eyes that had only ever regarded her as an aberration, a woman too powerful to be comfortable. "We're here to vote," said Edmund Klein, the acting chair, smugly. "On effective leadership in light of certain concerning moves by our current CEO." Mara didn't blink. "Define, concerning." "Your recent disappearances. Your silence during critical restructuring talks. The perception that you're compromised by a personal relationship with our largest investor." That last line struck like a slap, but she let it sheet off like rain. "Perception," she said, "isn't reality, but it is dangerous. If shareholders lose confidence," another member added, "they'll move their money. Then perhaps we need shareholders who believe in vision, not gossip. We need stability, Mara." "No," came a voice from the doorway. "You need truth." Sloane stepped in like a storm in silk, composed, confident, and radiating threat with every measured stride. She didn't look at Mara, not yet. She walked straight to the table and pulled out a chair. The room shifted. You could feel it, the discomfort, the recalculations. Miss Mercer, Klein said. You were not invited to speak. Then you shouldn't have made this public. Sloane said flatly. If you want to vote someone out, at least have the spine to do it without pretending it's about ethics. Mara's pulse kicked hard. She hadn't known Sloane would come in like this. Hadn't known she would fight this visibly. This dangerously. You have no right. Klein began. But Sloane cut him off. I have every right. I own 51% of this company and I'm casting my vote now. Mara Kincaid remained CEO. Effective immediately, no conditions. The silence was absolute. Mara's throat tightened. Sloane finally looked at her and there it was, complete, undeniable loyalty in her eyes. Not just for the company, for her. You can't override the vote. Another board member argued, scrambling. We have bylaws and I've read every line of them, Sloane said calmly. I'm not here as a lover. I'm here as a shareholder. Mara stays. You're destroying this company for her. Sloane leaned forward, voice low. Dangerous. No, I'm saving it from people who forgot that risk is the price of vision. Someone tried to challenge the legality. Another tried to pivot to Mara's personal conduct, but it didn't matter. Sloane had made herself the shield and the sword. The room eventually dissolved into formalities, motions, votes, retractions. Mara watched it all in a haze, her heart hammering like it was trying to punch its way out of her chest. She was still CEO, still in power, but everything had changed. When the meeting ended, the room cleared. Sloane, move. Mara walked to her slowly. You just burned a lot of bridges for me. I do it again. Mara searched her face. You just made enemies out of half this board. Then let them come. This is the part where they try to kill you. Good, Sloane said. Let them aim for me. You've had enough knives in your back. Mara almost laughed. Instead, she stepped close and lowered her voice. You didn't have to save me. Yes, Sloane said. I did because I love you and I won't apologize for it. Mara felt the words crack something deep inside her. Say it again. Sloane's hands cooped her face. I love you. Mara kissed her like it was oxygen, like it was rebellion, like she finally stopped caring who watched. When they pulled apart, Sloane whispered, let's build something they can't tear down. Mara smiled together. They left the building hand in hand, knowing the war wasn't over. But now, for the first time, they were fighting on the same side. It had only been 3 days since the boardroom war, but everything had shifted. The press was circling like sharks around blood. Anonymous leaks flooded the media. Rumors of misconduct, whisperings about favoritism, board instability, questions about Sloane Mercer's ethics, and Mara Kincaid's leadership. The public didn't care about truth. They wanted spectacle, and they had it now. Sloane's name was everywhere. Not just as an investor, but as Mara's lover. The headlines were cruel. Sleeping with power. Kincaid Corp's scandal and silk. CEO or puppet. Who's really running Kincaid now? Mara read them all. She didn't flinch anymore. She was used to being villainized. But Sloane wasn't. Sloane had spent her life in shadows, in silence, pulling strings and avoiding spotlights. And now the world was tearing her apart. Mara found her in the apartment one night. Lights off, bottle half empty, fingers stained with ink from a letter she never finished. Sloane looked up, eyes exhausted. They're calling me a fraud. A predator. You're neither. They think I bought you. They don't know me. Sloane scoffed. They don't care. They just want to watch us bleed. Mara sat beside her. Then let them watch. But they'll never see the truth, which is that I would have burned it all down for you long before you walked into that elevator. Sloane's laugh was bitter. I'm not used to being seen like this. Welcome to my world. Sloane turned her face into Mara's shoulder, and for the first time, Mara felt how fragile she really was. The woman who had defied the board, defied the press, who had said, I love you, like a declaration of war. She was unraveling under the weight of being visible. They want to break us, Sloane whispered. Then we give them nothing to break. But it wasn't that simple. The whispers grew louder. Clients pulled out of deals. Stock dipped internally. Loyalties wavered. Some board members started building coalitions behind the scenes. Mara felt the empire she built start to shift beneath her like sand. And worse, she felt Sloane pulling back. Slowly, quietly, Sloane still touched her, still kissed her, still curled around her in the night. But something in her eyes had changed. Not love, but fear. One night, Mara awoke to find the bed empty. She found Sloane on the balcony, barefoot, arms crossed, looking out over the city like she was already gone. "Tell me you're not planning to disappear," Mara said. Sloane turned around. "I'm not good at being the reason someone loses everything." "You're not the reason, Mara." Sloane's voice cracked. "You're bleeding for me. I can't keep watching that." Mara stepped forward, fury and panic in her voice. "Don't you dare start protecting me. Don't you dare decide for me what I can survive. I don't know how to be loved like this." "Then learn." A long silence. Then Sloane finally turned. "What if this ends us?" Mara stared at her. "Then at least we went down together." Sloane stepped forward, but this time it wasn't a kiss. It was a slow, desperate embrace, her forehead against Mara's neck, her body trembling. "I love you so much it hurts," Sloane whispered. "Then stop trying to survive me. Choose me." "I do every day. That's what terrifies me." Mara held her tighter. "Then let's be terrified together." The next morning, Sloane released a statement to the press. A direct message, no PR filter, no corporate polish, just her voice. She admitted everything. Her role, her relationship, her vote, but she framed it as what it was, an act of trust, not manipulation. It was bold, honest, and dangerous. The fallout was immediate. Some applauded her transparency. Others called for Mara's resignation again. But there was something new now. Respect. The kind that comes when someone stops pretending. Sloane had stepped out of the shadows for Mara. And Mara? Mara held the line. The company bent, but didn't break. At least not yet. Late that night, as they lay tangled in silence, Mara whispered into Sloane's shoulder, "Power is the most fragile kind of love." Sloane didn't answer. She just held her tighter because she knew it, too. And they were both holding something that could shatter if either one let go. 3 weeks passed. The world didn't calm down. But Mara and Sloane learned how to breathe in its chaos. The initial storm of the scandal lost its novelty. News stories took its place. Politicians, celebrity divorces, and oil spill. Sloane's public statement had shifted the narrative, not ended it, but changed the tone. She had looked the world in the eye and said, "Yes, I love her. No, I won't apologize." And people respected that, even the ones who still didn't like it. But respect didn't equal forgiveness. And it definitely didn't equal safety. Inside Kincaid Corp, the wounds still bled behind closed doors. Some clients refused to come back. Some internal partners treated Mara like a ticking bomb, smiling to her face, moving against her in quiet corners. And though Sloane had promised to fight beside her, there were moments Mara caught her slipping into old habits again, disappearing into silence, vanishing into work, avoiding touch like it burned. It wasn't rejection. It was fear. And Mara understood that better than anyone. One night, she found Sloane still in her office at 3 a.m., eyes red from staring at numbers and damage control reports. Sloane didn't even look up when Mara walked in. "If you're here to convince me we're still winning," Sloane muttered. "Save your breath." Mara didn't say anything. She simply walked over, shut Sloane's laptop, and pulled her into her arms. Sloane resisted for half a second, then broke. Her body melted into Mara's, and her hands clung to the back of her shirt like she was afraid Mara would dissolve. "I don't know how to fix this," Sloane whispered. "Then stop trying to fix it. Just stay." Sloane pulled back, searched her face. "You still trust me?" Mara's eyes didn't flinch with everything. The next morning, Sloane didn't go to work. She didn't disappear either. She sent Mara one text. "There's something I want to show you." Mara found her waiting outside a building downtown, rundown, forgotten, but familiar. It had once been a homeless shelter. Sloane's mother used to work there before she died. Mara remembered Sloane mentioning it once back when they were still trading truths on rooftops. Inside, Sloane showed her plans, blueprints, investment drafts, architects already on hold. "I'm buying this place back," Sloane said. "Not through Kincaid. Not with shareholder money, with mine. I want to rebuild it. I want something in this city that doesn't exist just to make someone rich." Mara stared at her. "Why now?" "Because I've spent my entire life making things that profit from fear. I want to build something that exists out of love." Mara stepped forward. "And you want me to help?" "No." Sloane said, voice soft. "I want you to believe I'm not just the woman who nearly ruined you." Mara reached out, took her hand. "You never ruined me. You reminded me what I was building for. That night, they went back to Sloane's apartment, though it already felt like theirs. The lights were low, the city humming below them. Mara stood in front of the mirror, removing her earrings one by one, when Sloane came up behind her and kissed her shoulder like it was sacred. I thought I lost you, Sloane whispered. Mara turned slowly. You didn't. You almost did. And I'm still here. Sloane's hands found her waist. If this fails, this company, this us, I wanted to be because we tried, not because we were afraid to. Mara nodded, her voice thick. Then let's try harder. And they did. For the next 2 weeks, they fought together, strategized together, walked into meetings as a united front. They didn't hide. They didn't flinch. And slowly, something began to shift. The company started stabilizing. Partnerships reopened. A major client, one Mara had long believed lost, signed back on after a private call from Sloane. She said the way you look at me convinced her the company still had a soul. Sloane admitted with a soft smile. I told her you were the one with the soul, Mara replied. But even as things recovered, Mara could feel the tension under the surface. Not between them, but around them. The board wasn't done. Not truly. They had been silenced, not defeated. Mara received an anonymous tip. A leak was being prepared. Something big. Something old. Her past. They're digging, she told Sloane. Then let them dig. You don't understand. There's something in there. Sloane stepped closer. Mara, whatever it is you tell me now, I'd rather face it beside you than read it in a headline. Mara swallowed, her voice barely a whisper. When I first took control of Kincaid, I made a deal I've never spoken about. Illegal, risky. I saved the company, but if it comes out, I lose everything. Sloane didn't move. Didn't blink. Then we face it. Sloane, no more secrets. No more shields. It could take you down, too. Sloane stepped forward. Then we fall together. And just like that, Mara realized that the only thing more dangerous than power was trusting someone enough to share it. The leak dropped on a Thursday morning. No warning, no chance to get ahead of it. 1 second, Mara was sipping her coffee, staring out the panoramic window of her office. The next her phone was vibrating non-stop. Emails, alerts, texts. A headline blinked on her screen like a knife against her throat. Kincaid Corp built on fraud. CEO Mara Kincaid accused of financial misconduct in early years. It was real. The deal she'd buried, the one she never thought would resurface. It was out. The article was surgical, precise. It detailed how in her first year of leadership, Mara had made a secret off-the-books arrangement with a now-defunct international supplier to keep Kincaid afloat during the 2009 crash. Technically illegal, morally gray, a desperate move, and a mistake. Mara stood in the center of her office, heart pounding. While outside, the entire building seemed to hold its breath. She didn't panic, not visibly. She just picked up her phone, called Sloane, and said, "They know." Sloane didn't ask what. She simply said, "I'm coming." By the time Sloane arrived, the vultures had landed. The board had called an emergency meeting. Press vans lined the street outside the building. Kincaid Corp's legal department was scrambling. Mara stepped into the boardroom like a soldier heading for the front lines, and Sloane walked beside her. No hesitation, no distance, just presence. The board members were livid. Edmund Klein slammed his file onto the table. You lied to us. You covered up a criminal act. You put this entire company at risk. Mara didn't defend herself. She looked each one of them in the eye and said, "Yes, I did." Gasps. Outrage. I did what I had to do to save this company. At 28, I was handed a sinking ship with no lifeboats. I made a choice. I didn't do it for greed. I did it because I believed in what Kincaid could become. And because of that choice, we survived. That's not the point. Another board member snapped. You committed fraud. I took a risk and I've carried the weight of that risk every day since. But don't stand there and pretend you haven't profited from it. You all did. You could be indicted. Mara didn't flinch. Then I'll face it. But I won't let this company fall just because I didn't get to play the game the way you wanted me to. Someone said they should call a vote of no confidence. Sloane finally stood. Her voice was quiet. Lethal. If you vote her out now, you're not just removing a CEO. You're killing the future of this company. The world doesn't need perfect leaders. It needs honest ones. You want to bury her? Fine. But you bury me with her because I'm not going anywhere. Silence. And then Klein said, you love her. That clouds your judgment. Sloane smiled cold and clear. No, that sharpens it. The vote didn't happen. Not that day. The board recessed in chaos. The legal team started damage control. And Mara walked out of the building with Sloane's hand in hers. The world watching, the future dangling by a single thread. That night, Mara didn't go home. She couldn't. The weight of it all settled on her chest like iron. She stood on Sloane's balcony, eyes on the skyline, voice hollow. It's all going to fall. Sloane stood behind her, arms circling her waist. Then we rebuild it brick by brick. This time with the truth. I don't deserve you. You deserve a chance to be forgiven, even by yourself. Mara turned, eyes glossy. What if I don't survive this? Then we fall together. We've already said that. But I thought I could carry it all. That if I just worked hard enough, buried deep enough, I could keep it clean. Sloane touched her face. What you buried still bleeds. Let it bleed. Let it hurt, but don't hide from it anymore. Mara closed her eyes. I'm so tired. Then rest. I'll carry it for a while. She let Sloane hold her. And for the first time, she didn't resist the comfort. She didn't push it away. She let herself break. And Sloane held every shard. The next day, Mara went public. She stood in front of the press, told the truth. No spin, no denial. She confessed the deal, explained the context, took full responsibility. I'm not asking for forgiveness, she said. I'm asking for accountability for myself and for every person who's ever had to choose survival over protocol. The backlash was loud, but the support was louder. Employees spoke up. Old partners defended her. Clients who had walked away returned with cautious but open hands. Mara Kincaid had told the truth. And in doing so, she proved she wasn't just a CEO. She was human, and more than anything, she was still standing. That night, as the company held its breath and the world waited for the dust to settle, Mara walked into Sloane's arms and whispered, I'm still here. And Sloane said, I always knew you would be. Mara had never been a symbol before. She had been power, precision, fear, but not hope, not vulnerability. And now that the world had seen her cracks, some wanted to destroy her completely, while others wanted to lift her higher than ever. That duality was dizzying. The board didn't try to remove her again. They couldn't. Not after the public rallied behind her post-confession. Not after the numbers studied and the shareholders ironically saw that the transparency had actually improved trust in Kincaid. But power doesn't forget humiliation, especially when delivered by two women in love. Mara felt it in every meeting now, in the side glances, in the carefully veiled tones. They didn't challenge her authority, not directly, but they resented her survival. And they resented Sloane even more. The whispers shifted focus. Now, it wasn't about Mara's mistakes. It was about Sloane's presence. Too involved, too powerful, too close to the crown. Mara knew the language of coups. This wasn't about scandal anymore. This was about territory. One morning, Mara arrived to find her name omitted from an internal memorandum she should have authored. A pitch she greenlit rerouted through another executive. A meeting rescheduled 3 times without notice. Subtle moves, dangerous ones. She brought it to Sloane, who sat across from her at the kitchen table, fingers laced, quiet. They're isolating me, Mara said. They're trying to prove I've lost control. Sloane didn't look surprised. They can't win outright, so they're going to make it so painful that you'll resign yourself. And it's working. Then fire them. Mara blinked. Excuse me? Fire the one still playing both sides. Clean house. Mara shook her head. That's a PR nightmare. So is being pushed out of your own empire one silent vote at a time. Mara exhaled, rubbed her temples. You make it sound simple. It is brutal, but simple. She looked up at Sloane. Really looked. You're used to fighting dirty. I'm used to surviving. And I'm tired of surviving. Sloane reached across the table, took her hand. Then let's build. Mara. Not just survive. Let's build something that's actually ours. It was the first time Sloane had said it like that. Ours. Not just the company, the life, the future. But Mara's mind couldn't stop spinning. You'd really go through that kind of war with me. I already am. And what if I can't win? Then we make losing beautiful. Mara stood pacing. You've sacrificed so much for me already. Your reputation, your privacy. You gave up the peace you lived in. I gave that up the night I pulled you out of the elevator. Mara froze, their eyes locked. You still remember that night? I replay it more than I should. You were a stranger. You were everything. The words didn't break Mara. They studied her. She walked over, touched Sloane's jaw, and kissed her like it might be the last time. Then let's end this on our terms. That same day, Mara called an emergency executive meeting, not with the board, just the senior leadership team. She didn't wear black. She didn't bring legal counsel. She wore white, clean, calm, and she told the truth again. Some of you have stopped believing in me. Some of you are playing a waiting game. But here's the thing. I'm not leaving. I built this place not for control, for vision. And I won't let it be strangled by fear. So if you want out, I'll buy you out. No shame, no lawsuits. You walk today. Silence. Then one by one four executives stood. Walked out. Doors closed behind them like final chapters. And Mara remained unshaken. The next few days were brutal. Rebuilding the leadership team, dealing with leaks again, reassuring clients. But something in her changed. She stopped bracing for collapse and started choosing who she wanted to be. That weekend, Sloane took her out of the city, just 2 hours away, a hidden lake house Sloane had owned for years and never shown anyone. I bought it after my mother died, Sloane admitted. It was supposed to be a place to hide. You never hide, Mara said. I do, but not from you. They stayed 2 nights. No phones, no emails, just skin, firelight, real laughter, and a kind of silence that healed instead of haunting. On the last night, Mara sat with her legs over Sloane's lap, wine glass in hand, voice low. Do you ever wonder what this would have been if we met differently? I used to, and now Sloane smiled. Now I think it was always going to be you. Elevator or boardroom or battlefield. Mara stared at her. I love you. It wasn't the first time she'd said it, but it was the first time she didn't say it like a risk. She said it like a vow. Sloane kissed her hand. Then let's give them something they can't touch. Like what? Like a future. But even as they held each other close in that sanctuary of borrowed peace, neither of them said what they both knew deep down. That peace never lasts long when you build it on power. Monday came like a blade to the throat. No softness, no warning, just impact. Mara arrived at Kincaid Tower to a scene she hadn't expected. Armed security at the entrance to the executive floor. New uniforms, not her usual team. Her badge didn't scan. Her name had been removed from the system. Her face, once a symbol of everything the company stood for, was now just a problem to be kept out. She didn't flinch. Didn't panic. She simply turned, walked back to the car, and dialed one number. They made their move, she said. Sloane's voice on the other end was low and steady. I'm already there. 10 minutes later, Sloane sent a location, a rooftop bar downtown, overlooking the city they had both carved open with their ambition. Mara arrived to find Sloane waiting with 2 tablets, 1 contract, and an expression like stone. They called an emergency vote last night, Sloane said without preamble. They knew we were out of town. Knew you wouldn't be able to stop it. They locked me out of my own company. They're trying to take everything before the annual report drops because they know the numbers are finally swinging in your favor. Who let it? A pause. Sloane's jaw tightened. Klein. And don't say it. Sloane nodded grimly. Your former assistant CFO, the one you mentored. Mara closed her eyes. For a second, it wasn't just betrayal. It was intimacy turned poison. They think they've won, Sloane continued. But they made one mistake, which is, I still hold the final vote. They filed the vote of removal, but without majority shareholder approval. It doesn't stick unless I ratify it. Mara blinked. You can still block it. Yes, but if I do, they'll retaliate. Lawsuits, public smear campaigns. They'll take the company down just to ruin us. And if you don't, Sloane looked away. They'll oust you quietly. No scandal, just erasure. Mara stared at her. And what happens to you? I'll stay as the one who let it happen. The one who didn't fight for you. The silence between them pulsed with everything they hadn't said in months. Everything they'd buried under survival. Mara reached across the table, took Sloane's hand. So, we're here. We're here. If you block them, you risk everything you've built. You make yourself the target. You already are. No, Mara whispered. You've shielded me enough. Let me fall alone this time. Sloane's eyes burned. No. If we burn, then let it be together. She slid one of the tablets toward Mara. There's another option. Mara read the document. Blinked. You want to dissolve the board? Yes. You want to go nuclear? No. I want to reset the entire game. Fire every last one of them. Rebuild Kincaid as a private company under us. I've already arranged the capital. That's dangerous. So is falling in love with you. Mara looked up. If we do this, there's no turning back. If we don't, they win. And worse, you disappear. Your name wiped from the thing you built. Is that the legacy you want? Mara closed her eyes. The weight of it all, the legacy, the ambition, the fear, the love pressed down like iron. We do it together. Your name on every page, not just mine. Done. They both signed. Not with ceremony, not with hesitation, just resolve. And when the digital ink dried, the war had officially begun. In the next 48 hours, Sloane unleashed hell. A full audit of the board's finances was made public. Private investigations into conflicts of interest surfaced. Shareholder alliances were reshaped. Executives who thought they were untouchable found themselves exposed. And Mara, she held the line. She gave speeches. She stood on stages. She reminded the world who she was, not as a survivor, but as a woman who refused to be erased. The media roared. The internet split. Some called it a power grab. Others called it revolution. Sloane stayed 2 steps ahead of the chaos, feeding Mara the right names, the right data, the right moments to strike. It was war, yes, but it was also the most intimate act of love either of them had ever known. To fight for something together. To burn down the house and build it again, brick by brick, scar by scar. And when the final board member resigned in disgrace, Sloane didn't celebrate. She just looked at Mara across the city skyline and said, "You're still here." And Mara, with tears in her eyes and steel in her voice, said, "So are you." That night they stood in the middle of Mara's office, no longer locked out, no longer afraid. Sloane kissed her there against the glass with the city watching like a witness. Do you know? Sloane whispered. How many times I imagined this moment. Mara smiled. Then let's make sure it lasts. How? Mara turned to her, eyes glowing. By letting the world see what it looks like when 2 women don't just survive, they win. Spring came slowly, not in flowers, but in silence. In the quiet after war, in rooms that no longer echoed with threats, only plans. The chaos faded, but the change remained. Kincaid Corp was theirs now, rebuilt, rebranded, reborn. The press called it the most ruthless corporate cleansing in recent memory. The internet called it sap-pick domination. Mara didn't care what they called it. She had Sloane. She had control. She had peace, but more than all that, she had truth. For the first time in her life, she wasn't performing. Not for her father's ghost. Not for boardroom vultures. Not for anyone. Sloane had stripped her of everything that wasn't real. And what remained was terrifying and beautiful. Their days found rhythm. Mara ran the company. Sloane shaped the vision. They worked in sync. 2 minds with matching ambition and different wounds. They still fought, still clashed, still challenged each other in every way that mattered. But now the tension was fertile. It grew things. And their nights were church. All skin and whispers and fingers tangled in silk sheets. It wasn't escape anymore. It was home. Then one evening after a long day filled with clients and contracts and one very annoyed government official, Sloane stood in the middle of Mara's office as the sun dropped behind the skyline. She was wearing black, always black, her sleeves rolled, her jaw sharp, and her eyes softer than Mara had ever seen. You remember the elevator? Sloane asked quietly. Mara looked up from her desk, lips curving. You mean the one I was trapped in before the janitor, who wasn't a janitor, pulled me out and wrecked my entire life? Sloane smiled. Yeah, that one. What about it? You said something to me that night. Something you probably don't remember. Mara stood slowly. I remember everything. Sloane stepped closer. Say it again. Mara blinked. Her voice dropped to a whisper. If we meet again, I'll marry you. We met again. Sloane's voice cracked just slightly. Over and over. Through fire, through scandal, through everything. Mara reached up, touched her cheek, and I'd say yes every time. Sloane pulled a small black box from her pocket. No flourish, no kneeling, no speech, just an offering. Then marry me where the world can hear it. Mara's breath caught. Inside the box was a ring like nothing else. Industrial and elegant with a twist of dark steel and white gold shaped like something salvaged from a storm. You designed this? A nod. Every part of it. It's sharp. So are you. It's heavy. So is this love. Mara looked up and her eyes were wet. Yes. Just that. No performance, no spectacle, just a woman who had spent her whole life running from being known. And was now ready to be seen. The wedding was 3 months later, not in a cathedral, not in a mansion, but on the rooftop of Kincaid Tower, the place where Sloane had first kissed her in the dark and whispered, "Try me." The world was watching. Cameras, journalists, investors, employees, enemies, all of them. But Mara didn't care. She wore white again. Sloane wore black again. Their vows were short, truthful, a little messy. "I'll never be easy," Sloane said, "but I'll always be real." "I don't need easy," Mara answered. "I just need you." Their kiss was long and daring, a proclamation. The city roared beneath them, cameras flashed, applause rose. Yet the loudest thing was the quiet inside that kiss, the silence that said, "We made it." Later, moonlight pooled over their hands, wedding bands warm against skin. "You're still the only thing I've ever wanted that scares me," Sloane whispered. Mara smiled into her neck. "Good, because I plan to keep terrifying you. Promise me forever." Outside, the city kept moving. Corporations shifted. Power changed hands. The scandal, the noise, the politics faded. Some truths stayed. In Kincaid Tower, 2 women helmed an empire built not only on ambition, but on a love that refused to die. They weren't perfect, but they were real. Every time Sloane stepped into Mara's office, Mara looked up like it was the first time. Every night when Mara drew Sloane close, Sloane held her like a vow. And sometimes, when the skyline burned gold and the streets went quiet, Sloane would lean over and murmur, "You know, I married the janitor." And Mara would grin back. "And I married the woman who owned the building the whole damn time." Then they'd laugh, they'd kiss, and they'd begin again. If you enjoyed this content and want to support the channel in a special way, please click the thanks button below, the one with the heart and $sign icon. With super thanks, you can make a direct contribution to the channel, which helps me keep creating awesome videos for you.